All right, guys. So, what is going on? What is the purpose of this video? So, this is a video that was supposed to go up on Friday. Uh, One of the guys I put up that post about Cesar Ciello's crossing over, which he liked. So, I have the approval from the Most High. So, he could have went in there and refuted it. He didn't. He threw a like bomb instead. So, your boy's right. But sorry about that, guys. Eating some fruit, grapes. Um, the technique stuff, the crossing the midline, what we're gonna do, or back to this kid. His name's, I think it's Coach Tucker. If y'all want to send him this video, I don't care. Um, but if you do, hey dude, I just want to say this to you. Take my advice and heed this warning. Shut your mouth and learn, dude. Stop you running your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. You need to, like, I went to UT. It wasn't because I thought I knew everything. And when Eddie told me to do stuff, I was going to be like, no, like, all the swimming that I've watched, I know what I'm doing. Like, no, I shut my mouth and I learned. And as a result, I have the world's greatest technique swimming service, product, whatever you want to call it, in the world. That was redundant, world twice. And the reason why I say that, and the reason why we're doing this video, is because his post, I guess one of my followers sent it to me, and then I ran into another one. He wrote about fly, but we're not going to talk about the fly one. But I've been working on articulating another major piece of what we're trying to bring with the Rakeley Technique Solutions, and the first piece was the leakages point. Now, and I think it was Effortless Swimming. They had a reel that went up, and I saw that and it like clicked, like, oh, like this is why, like this is what I've been trying to communicate about why you need to use Rakeley. It was a post that they put up. So shout out to them. They like really solidified my thoughts. And then the coach wilding out, Tucker, I think, right? Like I had already been working on separate or reclassifying everything and rebranding. Sorry, I'm itching, guys. I just got some, allergies, whatever. What was I saying? Oh yeah, rebranding everything. So went from BB fundamentals to club fundamentals, from double A or BB beginner, double A fundamentals to collegiate needs. So high school, going to college, what they need, and usually what they're going to learn in college or should be learning in college. And usually that'll be the end of their learning experience, is the college needs content. Now, from there is a clear separation of learning world-class and definitely world record techniques. World record techniques, you start combining things, and your precision and how deliberate you have to be in timing things correctly becomes more and more important as you go from world-class to world record, because everything there is about producing more power and using your body and certain timings of when this shoulder is here, this pull is here. When this rotation happens, it needs to be steered this way across my body so that I don't swing wide and push myself sideways. The precision of controlling your details becomes more important. And additionally, a lot of rules aren't broken, but literally, like the literal breaking the rule, you do break them, like the crossing over or crossing your midline, not crossing over. But so the reason why we're making this, right, is his video was too good of an example about how we are, one, going to take over this thing, because a lot of the stuff he preaches are common, right? And our purpose is we've taken these world-class drills or skills, whatever, and figured out how to appropriately add them to the collegiate needs. So like our collegiate needs is not what everybody else does. It's what everybody else does plus certain world-class skills. So it's better than the regular collegiate needs if they are learning everything that's in there. And it's done in an appropriate manner within their motor skill capabilities. So like if you're doing the early vertical form, like we're going to see in this video, we've ironed out a lot of things. So he swings wide, which obviously causes you to swim sideways. We've adjusted for that with how we teach the drill progression in the Rakeley Technique Solutions library. So, Coach Tucker, if you're still watching, like that is the importance of why I was saying like shut your mouth and listen, because Being fast, I always say this, being fast is easy. It's finding the right information that's hard. And, I did a quick Google search, just trying to figure out where you swam, kind of where your foundation is of what you learned. My foundation is world record breaststrokers, Eddie, American record holder freestylers, Olympic champion freestylers, coaches who coach world record holder sprint freestylers, where you got to be precise to cut through the water. And that's kind of my foundation. Okay. And obviously that's like the highest level of technique. And that's what I'm building on. So you don't never know who you're talking to, man. Some stuff you can just tell right away it's garbage, but you got an account, let's just run off clout, right? An account that's 10 times the size of yours plus might know more. Might. If you do, let's not go into that. So yeah, I remade the video because I really wanted to focus more on the technique stuff and showing how the rule of crossing over, which is something you should not be doing, gets violated multiple times in freestyle, both in the recovery and then in the finish, going from one hip to the opposite hip into the air. And how, if you really want the precise, deliberate motions to be elite, there is a clear-cut difference with what you're going to be learning. And that's what we bring to you. And if you don't want to learn that stuff and you just want to stick to the normal stuff, we've screened enough world-class stuff into the typical stuff that is taught in swimming to where it's still an advantage to you. So let's dive in. We're first going to look at Coach Tucker's video, and then we'll move from there. Let's start off with his video. Sorry about that, guys. I had a little error on my side. Well, let's get it running.
Don't cross your fucking midline. Never cross your fucking midline. Rotate, set, pull past your hip. What the fuck is wrong with people? Have we never watched swimming? Oh yeah, you should do this. Oh yeah, you should do this. What? These people don't know what they're doing.
All right, so first let's just run through everything that's wrong with this video, and it's all wrong. If we're coaching for world-class skills, and even with the college needs level content, this is incorrect. But like I said, we're focused on the different, well, I guess we're going to talk about both, right? The college needs and then how you need to break some of these rules to get into the world-class content, or to get to world-class skills where you need to be a lot more precise. So first, right, he says don't cross the midline, right? Now, obviously, we just talked about how that's garbage, and, to be precise and get the most out of your stroke, you're going to have to. So right here, rotate. One, you're never swimming side to side. You never want to do that. We'll do it in drill progressions so that we can emphasize the spatial awareness of where you're going to hold. Like if you're on your side, you know right away if you roll early, right? So we'll use it in our drill progressions. But if you look at where his catch is, fingertips to toes, he's pretty much in his line. Immediately, any rotation that happens, your shoulder has to go wide. Right now, he doesn't pull on his side to make sure it stays in a straight line and then get there and then rotate. He catches, and even with his catch, he slides wide. And then as he pulls, he continues to slide wide. So if you do this as a swimmer, you're going to push water sideways. And I know because I have to coach athletes out of that bad habit that he just showed us all. Additionally, pull past the hip. I'm not mad at that, but how many times have we heard swim past your catch? He's saying pull past your hip. Now, these are things that your subconscious mind, when you're teaching to an athlete, are going to pick up on, all right? If he's rolling, which he is, we see that he's going from one hip forward to the other hip forward. Okay? This is going to be important when we get to the end, but if his arm was to stay in the water for as long as he could, and we back this out to right here, his arm is in the air, his whole bicep right there. Right, and now his hand's in the air, and he hasn't even got to his side. So he's pulling still, which I don't know what he's doing. He's still pulling, so I guess he's pulling air until he gets to the other side. And then here we have another issue where he catches, we slide wide, pushing water sideways. Like, it's just, those are all issues that we want to avoid, okay? All things we want to avoid. Anything where we're sending energy sideways. And I'd say that's, even though that's something that is said in the club level, right, and the collegiate level, as you can see, it's very easy, like once you're actually in the water and your feet are planted on planet Earth, that you can have these energies going all over the place. And we're going to look in 3 different phases of videos. First one is going to be showing examples of swimmers crossing their midline. The second one's going to be, is it myself? Let me look real quick. Sorry, guys. The second one is going to be, myself and the errors that I did. Okay, that's what it is. The second one is going to be errors that I fixed as an athlete. No, let's just go straight to the YouTube or to the video. Second one's going to be me showing how crossing your midline actually creates a straight line pull. All right, and then the third one's going to be the errors that I've had to fix as a coach to get kids swimming, like how we've overcompensated literally this error, and how I've had to have athletes that are swimming like this swim like this to actually get them pulling right down their shoulder line. So it's just, like I said, it's just what we're watching here. It's all bad, but this isn't necessarily about Coach Tucker. Think about like just nameless coaches and nameless technique that is popularly taught. Like, it is this easy to improve. It is this easy. That's another thing. Have we never watched swimming? There's a difference between watching swimming and studying swimming, being a student of the game, right? Watching is being a fan, right? You got to pay attention to people, what they say, and how it records at a subconscious level, because you can get anything you need out of somebody just listening to their speech and the words they choose. So this part right here, I think, is a pretty cool piece, because this is pretty much what we're about to watch, the crossing the midline stuff. So right here, if you rotate this, he's here and he's here. That is going to be his across the midline, and he's literally going to do it and show it, prove it for us, even though he's got his hand the wrong way. You're going to side swipe bottom hip, top hip. And then as you're over here, you're rolling, you're going to go across your midline like he's about to do for us. And then you're going to slide bottom hip, top hip. So literally, like, he's doing exactly what, he's trying to be funny about it, but, ineffective. So, these people don't know what they're doing. And it's the equivalent of the first time you reach algebra and you see all these variables and you don't know what's going on. It's like, why is English in my math? You just don't get it. So we're done with this video. Let's move on. So here we have Cielo's. This is the video in question. It's not the reel I used, but it is definitely the video in question. Where right here I say that he's crossing his midline. And everyone's like, he's not crossing his midline. Let's keep this in mind, guys. If you have your shoulder in the air, your other, if you have I'm facing you. If I have, like, I don't see how people are just like, it's just a lack of creativity and a lack of thinking. But this is how easy it is to beat people, all right? Their rigidness leaves openings. If I have a shoulder that's in the water, I naturally have to have a shoulder that's, unless I'm doing this somehow. But even then, it's still behind my head. Now, if I'm squared forward, so I'm like this, I have one shoulder that's in the water, and then I have my other shoulder that's back here, and I have a hand in the water, and my head is at the surface, right? That means I have to be there. Say, even with he's back here, but usually that's about where we're trying to get, right? So I'm here, about even, and I'm swimming like this. I'm going back this way. I'm not going this way. So I have one shoulder that's back, one that's deep. I'm pulling with this arm here. I haven't rotated. I have a fingertip in the water. I am like this, guys. I have a shoulder that's back. I have a shoulder that's in front, and I'm here. Right now, we really don't even want to talk about it, because then when he rolls, We don't even want to talk about how you got to be in like this position. We don't even talk about that. I have to teach that to my kids when they're fine tuning their sprinting, because that level of precision, that position, even though it's not even there for like not even a tenth of a second, like the crossing over, the ability to, I'll show y'all, to get here, because you come over, right? You have your shoulder down, your hand hits. This hand is pulling, and then you got to roll and drive through. This hand has to steer over, right? Because if I just stay here and I roll, it's gonna go wide. So this has to steer over as I'm extending through to stay in a straight line. Now, if we look at my body, that's where I'm at. Okay? But if I'm rolling through, I have to steer over so I can get to my bottom hip and then my front hip and then finish out the back of my stroke. Boom. Steer across, bottom hip, front hip. So there's two places of crossing over. Those are the two that we're going to be looking at across all these videos. Let's see. Okay. So here we have Cielo. I'm going to try to make it big. There it goes, right here. And we can see the same thing. Nathan Adrian's right here. We're going to look at him shortly too. But when we look at Caesar with the gold cap, right, we have those fingers in, shoulder down, other shoulder high. And then he twists through. Now look at how deep his hand is. Okay, for his hand and his elbow, like it's maybe like about 6 inches underwater. So he's here finishing his stroke, and we can see his opposite hip connecting and his shoulder and his hip connecting. So for that to happen, guys, right, we're talking about, we've got the crossing over. We know we're crossing over. We just take it as a fact, guys. You are crossing. Now, how we do it and how we explain it, you don't have to like, and we teach it to the collegiate and needs level of the Technique Solutions Library without saying crossover. So, you know, you don't have to have your feelings hurt, but it is what it is. All right, now we have this other arm. If you're doing it correctly, people will say pull past your hip. You're pulling to your opposite hip. You're connecting to your opposite hip, because I'm trying to move my body past my anchor point. I'm not trying to pull past my body. I'm not trying to pull water or push water. I'm trying to move my body forward. So when this happens, if I'm swimming straight forward, I'm here, I'm on my side, I get that hand in the water, and then I'm crossing through here. My shoulder steers more into my midline so I can keep my shoulder in a straight line. And once I'm here, I am now bottom hip to front hip. Now, you don't have to like what you see, guys. Now, maybe it's not that narrow and maybe it's more wide, but that hip is still coming forward while my hand is still in the water, bottom hip to front hip, even though it's wide. All right, we look at it. Boom. Bottom hip, front hip. Look at Nathan Adrian right here. Let's see, we did the big thing. There it goes. All right, look at his hip and his hand. Right, you can see his hand in the water. It's a blur right there. His hip is coming down. So even if he's wide, which obviously it's not necessarily a wideness as much as it's just staying extended, you would be here, you'd connect, and then you would drive that hip through there. You obviously wouldn't get on your side because you're squared forward, but you would drive it, pop it forward, still crossing your midline. Okay. There we are, squared forward, almost crossing my midline, right? So your spatial awareness at this level is so pinpoint, because if it's not, you have your arms and your levers pushing water at the wrong direction at the wrong time instead of straight back and straight forward, and you're using your core a lot more, so you have to have these counter forces to make sure your swimming stays in a straight line. And if you don't, we get what Coach Tucker is doing, and we're pushing ourselves wide. Eamon Sullivan, this is probably one of the biggest ones you can see some of this crossover action. right? Look at his hand. And then his hip is all the way down, but his hand is still in the water, right? His opposite hip is all the way down, at least on video. That's what it looks like. I don't think it's that much down personally, but it's down and his hand is still in the water as he's exiting. Okay? It's all over. The hints are all over. And you have to do these things. You have to rotate your body, which makes it feel like you're crossing your midline, and you actually cross your midline to make sure your pull stays in a straight line. And the reason why, what he's saying, like I remember I'm watching this one coach I think it's like Jack something, and he's right. He means well in what he's saying. But like when you tell a kid to pull in a straight line and then they add rolling to it, like they're thinking about either the bottom of the pool or their body. If they're thinking about the bottom of their pool as their midline, they're going to swim open through their chest with no power. And then when they pull, they might go way over here. And then like they might actually do all that midline stuff to keep it in a straight line. But now they're pulling like this in the water, right? Where it's not from up here. So they're going from low power to low ability to hold the water. We don't want that. Okay? Like that's how precise this stuff has to be, and that's why the world-class skills take a lot more precision, right? That's them thinking about their body. Now, usually they thinking about it relative to the forwards and the bottom of the pool. Usually the bottom of the pool. The second one that they usually get messed up on is when they think about their body. This is pulling in a straight line. All right, now if you're teaching them to swim side to side like we see Coach Tucker doing, this is what, like my straight line is here. How many times have you seen swimmers pull and their whole hand is like sideways over here, right? And they're pulling to the water like this. That's because when they're here, they're pulling like this and then they roll and now they got this hand going here, right? Because they're out of control there, or we end up out here because they think they're pulling here and then they roll and they are pulling there. So those are the leakages that happen when you just teach the technique the way that Coach Tucker is. And that is like, I say Coach Tucker as like, not necessarily Coach Tucker, but as a symbol of that style of technique, which is what is normally taught, because that is a high or early vertical forearm. You are supposed to pull to your hip at that level of technique development. But to make sure that those leakage points I just showed you don't show up, you have to understand like what we're watching here and how to make it fit into what a 10-year-old learns, so they're not crossing over, breathing here, not crossing their midline, which is to them sideways, and then when they roll, now they're here on accident because they don't have the motor control or the understanding to know that I think I'm pulling in a straight line and I'm not, just because my musculature is lazy and I don't know I'm being lazy because nobody's telling me. So like a lot of these issues we clear up. We clear them up. And that's why we can say like you're going to have tools to achieve time standards and go for goals instead of just showing up to practice swimming faster and hope it's fast enough to go your goal times, right? Getting rid of, you know what they say, I hope is a terrible offensive game plan. I'm way more happy with this recording. I think it was like 2 hours last time. And we're not even at 30 minutes. So here we have Ledecky. Distance swimmers are going to be a lot more getting on their side. So you're going to see their crossover of their hip line a lot easier. Like it's way more obvious. Especially when they breathe. Look at that. How do you make sense of that other than saying she's not crossing her midline down her body? You see it clear as day. Now, relative to forward, especially, no, she does do a high elbow catch or an inside vertical forearm. That's what we're going to call it. An inside vertical forearm instead of a high elbow catch vertical forearm. There's too many syllables. Inside vertical forearm, early vertical forearm, inside vertical forearm. She's an inside vertical forearm, so she's using a lot more power. And then she gets here, so she's going in a straight line through here. Right? But like I said, if you got little kids, you teach them that, they're out here immediately because they're trying to drive their shoulder forward. right? So we're trying to go here, boom, bottom hip, top hip. But you got to think about it, right? No coach is going to tell you cross your midline, right? And a lot of times, like I think especially with the Caesar video, it's just something that naturally happens as you're trying to make sure you don't roll over and get that hand out in front. But for athletes who actually need the skill and the tool, and they don't have necessarily the motor control to make sure that it's timed perfectly, or what it feels like to exit like this correctly, like we teach you, like this is what it should feel like. This is the drill progression. Make your bounce, drive your hip to your opposite hip to your hand, tap that hip, tap your same tight hip, and then exit. And then just get close, bottom hip, top hip. Make sure you feel like you're side swiping as you twist your hip in. Don't roll. Drive the hip forward into the bounce, right? Into your solid water catch. Like we actually teach you how to do these world-class skills. And then we make sure that the ones that are appropriate are in certain levels of, or lower levels of content like your college needs or like your club fundamentals. Now, one thing that's kind of cool, like when you start watching film, is you can see who learned this. So this is Phelps right here. Learned how to cross their midline correctly, and who does it correctly, or who learned that it's something they should be doing. So we watched Phelps, right? We can see on this one, that's a pretty good cross your midline. We can also see how tight he is to his hip. Doesn't need to be that tight. But then when we watch his left arm, you can see him literally cross all the way over there. So he is literally like this, right, as he's rolling through. And then we literally see him go bottom hip, top hip, to the point where it's almost like it's literally sideways as he's squared to the bottom of the pool, right? So even you look at a guy like Phelps, like that's an easy way to get faster if he can just snap that hip through with a lot more aggression, so that instead of it sliding this way, it slides backwards like it's supposed to. And some of y'all be like, he's Michael Phelps. He also wasn't the fastest American, so freestyler. He was briefly. So, you know, with a guy like that, you think he's satisfied with just being good enough? Like, no, he wants to be the best. So, of course, he's going to, you know, study film and be like, okay, I need a side swipe. But then, you know, nobody obviously got on his case about making sure that he snapped the hip all the way through. Because right here, you can see that arm in the water, guys. About right here, he should be snapping his shoulder through. And that's going to naturally kind of twist his body. But anyway, so yeah, you can learn from the greats too, guys. They make mistakes also. All right, now the biggest two. Man, I can't believe I just showed y'all that. Sorry. Just digging in there for gold. Ian Thorpe. Once again, big time crossing over. Almost to the point of a mistake where he's literally here and then he's going to roll and we're going to see him kind of slide out with the blade of his arm. I believe Phelps does this too, to a degree. But, you know, he's like, look at that, guys. He's like this. Right? So, the world's best do this. Now look at his other hand too. Right there. Bottom hip, bottom hand. Body's angled. You drew a straight line through his core of his midline. He's this way. Hands pretty much crossing his midline, guys. So, like, when people say this stuff, it don't bother me. But I thought, like, his video was too perfect of an example of what we deliver with Rakeley. I couldn't let the opportunity to go. And sorry you had to be the get made an example of Coach Tucker. I almost said Justin. He's a football player at UT, Justin Tucker. Shout out to Sam Tucker. Swim at UT. Hook 'em. Got my burn orange on, you know what I'm saying? But the difference between the world-class level and the everybody else, like, you can get to that world-class level doing the other stuff. Like, there's an athlete I'm working with who will be going to world championships online. And working with online is what I mean to say. And he's doing catch-up drill in a 50 freestyle. Right, so you can go X amount of speed fast but there's a limit. There's a hard ceiling on what you can do with that. Hard ceiling. And at that point, you need to know like once you get to a certain level, they're all doing this stuff. Unless you have a freak outlier like Caleb Dressel, who he doesn't do it in the point that it's not like perfect like everybody else is. He's just kind of delayed. The word I would use is sloppy. But he still gets there. He still gets to the positions. They're just not as crisp and sharp as you would like to see. But he still gets there, right? And, you think of him like as an athlete, he's a freak outlier. So it makes sense that he can kind of overcompensate for some of these mistakes that he makes. I think that's it. Let me see what this video looks like. Yeah, let's look at this video. So the last one, and then we'll move on to step 2. So here, Thorpe underwater again. We're going to check out some midline crossing. We're looking at the finish right here. You can see his hand. Look at that. It's all over the place, guys. And the thing is, it's not like a world-class swimmer thing. It's a tool. It's a skill that you, having a stronger oar versus a noodle with an oar on the end. It takes more strength and more precision to use correctly because you get a lot more output from it. So if you're making mistakes, you're going to be wasting energy and having leakages, or you're going to be using the energy and sending yourself in the wrong directions instead of straight down the pool. So that's the point of this stuff, right? You want to do it right, or you have to do it right. All right, let me get this next thing uploaded. All right, so here is the video where we're gonna see how I coached this girl. I actually taught her how to swim when she was 4, went to UT, and then when I came back and started club coaching, I got to work with this girl again. And we're gonna kind of look at, I guess we gotta look at her, no, we can look at the first video. And then we're gonna go look at some videos of athletes I had to correct their technique by teaching them how to swim like this. At the top of their stroke, side swiping across their face because of, like I said, Coach Tucker, we're not picking on him. He's just a representation of what I'm fighting against in the swimming community and successfully, Genghis Khan's sword, Braveheart, lopping heads off like my name is Ned Stark with ice. And we all know ice was the broadsword they used for executions in Game of Thrones. Two-handed sword, big old joint. Here we go. So this is also how the S-line pull to a degree is correct, because that's kind of what I did to the S-line pull is a straight line pull when you add in rotation. And it's also why I say stop teaching rotation or force feeding it like Coach Tucker was saying or showing us, because when you do that, your hands end up sliding wide, and then you got to find someone like me to then make sure your kid learns how to correct it. Whereas if you teach posture and get them going front to back and they're driving through their shoulders correctly, it's going to naturally, they take a breath and then they swim downhill across their body line and then put their head in the water. It's going to naturally fix a lot of these leakages. That's how we correct it, right? So let's take a look what we got going on here. So this is her swimming. You can see it. She's sliding wide with that left hand. So I'm telling her at the top of her stroke, I need her getting her elbow to the other side of her body, to the other side of her midline. Literally over here, push through, finish, bottom hip, top hip. Now, when we add rotation to it, and this is because, rotation is taught shoulder to hip, we end up pulling down the shoulder line. Right? So, you see what I'm saying? Depending on how they're using their body, which everybody teaches rotation. And this is me coaching her out of a bad habit. This is not what that specific correction is not in our drill progression. All right, it's not in the Rayleigh Technique Solutions. Excuse me. You might find it in the one-on-one reviews where we got to be a little bit more creative with our solutions based on the kid's motor skill. For example, I had an athlete this last weekend who's over swimming up here. Actually, I'll show you. Do I have the video? Yeah, I do. We got him swimming down here like this. Like, this is what I explained to him in his last video and got him to do it right. Is I had him swimming. I was like, get your head up, like way up. Get your arms down here by your ribs. And I want to see you swimming down here like this. Like swinging wide, throwing haymakers. Like, that's exactly how I told him to swim. And then, let's look at that video first, and then we'll get into some of the corrections that I'm having to go through. So this is him once he finally decided to throw some haymakers. Okay, we're gonna go straight to the end. Right, look at that. And he thinks, and I pulled him out of the pool, we watched this video, and he's like, I don't feel like what he sees, like what you guys are seeing, he does not see himself pulling straight down or pretty close to that shoulder line or in between the midline and the shoulder line, which is where we want to be for sprint free. Prefer more of it be his upper arm, but this is a massive improvement versus what he was doing before. A little bit of bicep, not a little bit, a lot of bicep drag there, but that's because he's up here instead of down here. And then right here, this hand entry, like I said, he thinks he's down here. And the reason why I had him do that, let's finish this and we'll talk about the reason why. Right? Down that shoulder line, past his hip, very good. He thinks he's swimming like this. This is what he told me. He said he's down here, but he was going more and like putting his hand over here and pulling like this. So he thought he was swimming like this. Clearly not what we were watching him do. And the reason why I had him do this is because he swims in a really out of control space back here where his shoulders get like locked up, and then he has to do something weird to like bring it around, and he swims in this way where he has to like over rotate to move forward. And by instructing him to move it here, because of the amount of rolling that would happen, even if done naturally, and the swinging wide part is that when he rolls and he swings wide to the lane line, he is in front of his torso. Right, where our mobility is nice and good and strong and we move as human beings. So he's able to get here. And because I said keep it low, he's not high anymore. He's not back here, right? So he's bringing it low by his ribs and then putting it in here, which is under his head. So that command was meant to kind of pull everything into his powerhouse and make sure that he was, even if he's down here, it would have been under his head, right? Now, if he was up here, we would have been like more, or that's exactly what happened. He started off up here, and I was like, okay, under your chin, brought it down to like right here, and I was like way down here, and now you see the end result. So, and this is what I'm saying about like the stuff that Coach Tucker's saying, like, I'm the one who has to then go back and fix it, because you're not doing it right the first time. And that's what we're trying to do with our technique solutions is put the right stuff in your kids' hands so you can benefit from it right away. Right? You can get your kids improvement right away. You can give them skills that they can control, harness, do dry land training, train and practice, because they're actually going to access their muscles when they do this stuff. They can get stronger in training and their aggressiveness with their stroke, and they can apply it to their races to actually achieve goals. So that's like our whole purpose, guys, with our technique solution. So now next, let's get into the errors that I've had to fix. So first we're going to look at the girl that I just showed, Annie, and her errors, right? So here we have, let me just put them all over here. Boom, let's just say 2 on it. Sprint, good arm. So this is our third video we're going to watch. Okay. So here she is just doing a nice smooth swim. And we can see how wide her arms are. We're going to see pretty much almost exactly. She doesn't rotate too much. But we can see exactly what Coach Tucker's talking about, right? Catch wide. We can see her hand slide even wider. This is not good for a sprint freestyler. We don't want that chest open. It's not good for any freestyle, really. But from here up to out here, she's pushing herself sideways. And if you ever watch swimmers who do this, if you watch their head, I just showed somebody this, where their head kind of was like zigzagging. I was a University of Seattle swimmer. And he's out of his breakout is like way out here. And you can see this head going this because something else is being used as a counterbalance to make sure he doesn't go way off track, but they're not going forward. And when you watch swimmers like this from the side, you can really see it because you'll see them pulling hard, but they're like instead of going forward past a certain point, they're like, there's like a magnetic barrier and then they'll slip through. It's a very unique and peculiar thing, but when you see it, that's like one of those symptoms that you know, like, oh, I know exactly what's going down. She's swinging wide. And the reason why we also know this is low power is because this is what happens when small swimmers swim with big kids. Because of the waves, they start swimming way out here to keep themselves in a straight line because this is for stability. This is common amongst open water swimmers. No power, though. We don't, like, I told her, I was like, you're the big fish now. Like, you need to start swimming for power and let everybody else swim. Try and deal with your waves. Right, so now we get to, I think the next video would be, make sure we put the correct one. No, good arm. Okay, so now we have her sprint freestyle. This is before the correction. And we're still gonna see that arm slide wide. Right, so when I first started working with her again, she was 13 going on, yeah, you can see that slide. We don't want that. And now the moment she rolls, now to counterbalance it, she has to overcorrect. And we just talked about that, right? How something, oh geez, it's still too wide. Yeah, just bad, just pushing water out sideways. And to counterbalance her, I showed you the Instagram video where I literally told her I want to see you at the top of your stroke, like the final version where she corrected it, and then you just put it in your coach bag like, okay, when I see swimmers like this where their biceps are going wide and the hands keeps going with the bicep, this is how you correct them out of it. I told her I want to see you push the water at the top of the stroke like this. I said I want to see your palm going sideways and your bicep going across your face to the opposite side of your body, and then bottom hip, top hip, and then out to the side. And she was like, okay. And this is the final result. And this was in my first year coaching her. And she went from like 25.4 in a practice suit to 24.75, got her sectional cut at just some random meet, right? Just putting her body or her limbs in the correct place. Now, she thinks she's doing this. Like what I just showed you. That's how she thinks she's swimming. Look at where her arms are, though. Look how deep that is. Right past, right in that shoulder line. Awesome. Look at this one. Still wide, but also it's down now. And a lot more narrow. Right? So these are, and this is, I think, 2016, I think. 17, 16. So, like, these are the mistakes that we're up against and that are easy to beat because people are going to keep making these mistakes, right? Because they don't understand the level of precision you need or the level of precision you have to use the world-class tools because they're everything they say don't do in swimming, but they're maximized to be the strongest tools for a swimmer to use to swim closest to their talent ceiling. But there's high risk, high reward that if you're not being deliberate with your usage, you're going to end up creating a lot of bad forces, right, in the water. Here's another swimmer. I'd say that girl, Annie, and then this swimmer are the two biggest examples I have of coaching somebody out of this bad habit of the catch outside and then the sliding wide. This girl is even worse. And even with butterfly, a lot of times, we're not talking, let's stay on the point. Keep the main thing the main thing. All right, so here is the other swimmer, and you can see like how detrimental to just sprinting, especially sprinting, but just swimming in general, the advice of that catch wide and roll and being on your side and just how it provides too many forwards, right? The thing I love about swimming with a good posture is that the way the direction of the chest face It's the same direction your head is facing. It's the same direction you're going to reach forward under the chin. So everything is in alignment, so you know if things are out of whack. Whereas if your face is down, forwards is straight down. If you're on your side, even though your face is straight down, forwards is actually this way. The bottom of the pool is also forwards, but forwards is also down the pool. It's just a ton of bad, it's too many variables. It's begging for bad swimming. It's begging for it. Anyway, all right, let's watch this bicep. Woof. Like, look at that. This is what your competition is doing. Your bridges you're racing. Just all out of the powerhouse of the chest alignment. Like, just pushing out sideways. Not even fingertips down. She thinks her fingertips are down, though, because she's on her side. Right? So it's like, these are the things we're trying to coach athletes out of. Okay, here we go. But you're going to be able to tell where her shoulder to bicep line is going. Okay, so yeah, look at that. So now this is her reaching all the way over the top and pushing the water in sideways. Now we're in the right place, and from here on, it's just, critiquing it. You can see that lift, with the good posture. We hadn't worked on the shoulder twist. We were just working on creating that power and getting the hand in the right place. None of that wide stuff. I think she's a 50. She's 17, I think now. She's a 52, or when she was 16, she's a 5,200 freestyler, 24 mid, 5,900 backstroker, right? So, it's just bad swimming information all over the place. And, people mean well with the techniques they say, but it's there's too many variables. There's just too many variables, and it makes it too easy for swimmers to make mistakes. So here's our last swimmer we're going to look at. I got to make sure that this is correct. All right, here's the last athlete. All right, so this is a lesson I had, I think it was Saturday. So distance swimmer, miler, 400 freestyler, 800 freestyler. He's really can be everything, but his sprinting is kind of messed up right now. Not my fault, but it can be my solution, right? So what I want y'all to see is he's kind of overreaching, right? We did some head tap drills. And I always say, we want to head tap and drive straight in, because once you get here in the actual swim, instead of tapping the head, the moment that this bicep closes that space, you're in front, right? So we just want to go straight into that bow wave, because any rotation is going to bring the arm in front. And this feels like underreaching, obviously. All right, still behind the head a little bit, back here a little bit, right there, right? Still, you see that shoulder's kind of back here behind his head, the shell of his deltoid. We just want to come straight through. Right, so that's kind of an error that we're trying to correct. Let's see what we got him doing next. So we go to catch-up drill, right? Force that body alignment, and we're going to see crossing the midline. But we're also going to see someone who looks extremely, extremely smooth. And this is why, like I said, the world-class swimmers, the level of precision that they do is necessary to break these rules and maximize your stroke. All right, so just looking at them, what is this point right here? What is that point right there? Right here. Look at that. Tell me that's not crossing his midline. I dare you. That's like you can see it clear as day. He also looks extremely smooth. Look at his hands. Look at that splash, guys. This is textbook 400 freestyle technique right there. You know, you put that on a world-class talent, that's what a 345 minimum looks like. You know, then we start taking it to his actual swim, and you can see how just getting this stuff fixed, even his shoulder still kind of not pushing through, you know, still kind of back here a little bit. You know, we're over rolling a little bit. through the hips. But even though we're rolling through the chest, you can see how his chest is still kind of bowed forwards to maintain that orientation of his body alignment. Overreaching a little bit sometimes. But you can see how deliberate he is, like putting his hand in the water and then pausing. And then we get to the end result. I think we might have one more video left. Let me see. Nope, this is the end result. Like, look at him now. Just smooth. Look at that splash. Reaching a little too deep. But just clean, guys. Just clean freestyle right there. Right, I think I told him. No, he got his elbow up. And like without any type of reaching, if he just rolls his shoulder, like his shoulder to bicep is now in front. So you don't need to overreach, guys. Just rolling is going to put it there. And you can really see it from the back angle here. That cross in the midline. Like even through his finish. Right there. Look at that, guys. Under the chin. So like that's what we're doing, guys, is we're taking, and so the drill that we worked on initially before we added the Tarzan, which I think I may add the Tarzan to it. I love the way that this turned out. Was the head tap drill. And you'll find the head tap drill in the college needs, where we tell them to tap, pull, slap the leg, and then right into the bow wave under the chin and then roll after. So you teach that, like you're avoiding a lot of these crossing overs, these swinging wides, the overreaches, and just going here is just going to naturally like snap that shoulder back. You know, I don't even have to really try to, right? It just goes through. You don't have to try to rotate if you do it right. So I just wanted to, like I said, this wasn't to pick on Coach Tuck. It was more so like what he was doing was a representation of the things that we're fighting against with Rakeley and how easy it is to beat these people, but also so you can see the technique stuff that we're using to actually program the techniques correctly. I was supposed to have some drill stuff. Now that I think about it, I didn't put it in here. We're going to look at one drill real quick, and then we'll be done. Sorry, guys. All right, so, and I forgot about this, so my bad. Here's what I'm talking about with the cross in the midline, right? So you can see how just getting over the shoulder, we are instantly, the body kind of twists or pivots itself on its side. She's under her chin, in front of the collarbone, so we got that good posture. Body rotates naturally, right? Let's get to the breathing so we can see what I'm talking about, reaching under the that chin. So here, this is crossing the midline, guys. She's on her side. She's supposed to be out here, so that way she can roll straight through the surface across the midline and into the pull. Because like I said, once we get here, guys, boom, we are going to roll and that arm's going to come forward. So we don't need to overreach up here. And this is how we teach an athlete how to swim through their breathing. She's literally going to swim through her breathing, and to do this, she crosses her midline, right? And this is just a breathing drill, one arm swim. You know, but making that specific piece where she is out here and reaching downhill is how we get this job done, right? So, and that's just one drill. So, like when we say we're doing stuff for performance, you can see how that breathing drill, that's I think 9-year-old, she might be 8, how that's going to translate into her swim, where now because she's reaching under her chin, the moment she's not on her side, she has her belly button down, that when she pulls and this arm goes here, it's going to go to the bottom of the pool, fingertips down, and she's going to cross her midline and have her fingertips going in first because that shoulder is high, so it's going to force fingertips in first, and she's going to swim with great hands, no bubbles on her hands, pulling back and forth, not over rotating, arm pulling within her powerhouse area and not outside, so we don't have any issues with any type of rotation and the arms pushing sideways. Like, it's easy to be fast, guys. And that's why we built the Rakely Technique Solutions, the library that we have, so you can find like these normal drills like breathing and add in these world-class skills. So learning how to breathe influences performance the correct way. It's a tool that we teach you to use so you can optimize your athlete skill development and make sure that they are swimming for performance and not just to swim faster. So that's it. Sorry I had to do it to you like that, Coach Tuck. DM me, I'll send you some stuff. You clearly need it. The rest, everybody else, thank you for supporting us. Continue to support us by hitting that subscribe button, hitting the like button, sharing this to people. If you've ever had conversations about crossing your midline and it's important because you're watching film and you know what you see is the truth, send this to them. Put them on blast. And to you who have watched this from your friend, welcome to the winning team. Hit that notification bell so that way you're alerted whenever we send a video out, and we'll catch you later, guys. Peace. Hi, y'all. I just want to add this on. I totally forgot to add it. This is me at Team Elite in North Carolina back when it was at SwimMac. I'm 38th in the world at this point in my 200-meter freestyle, 148.0. And when David put the constraint of the wall here, one, I scraped the hell out of my hand a few times, but it made me try to swim in a straight line and really open up my recovery and over rotate to try and make sure I'm swimming down this tiny hall, swimming skinny. But as Coach Tucker showed, when you do this and you catch wide, you can watch my head and my shoulders and see me moving side to side in the lane line. That is not optimal. The only reason why I'm not all over the place is because of the wall and the lane line. That's no good. Whereas you can easily see how if I'm swimming, crossing my midline, I have a good posture, how I would actually be swimming in a straight line down the pool, much like the high schooler with the red cap on video who was doing Tarzan drill, right? So, like I said, 38th in the world, amazing swimmer, but you can see how this error is still holding me back and how I was overcompensating for my mistakes with my athleticism, with my natural ability, instead of harnessing it through the correct tools.